And so when we talk about creators today, anyone can be a creator and get paid for it, right? But this is creating a lot of incredible opportunities for creators. How should media brands be engaging in a more meaningful way with the ecosystem of new creators? Chris, let's start with you.
I think this is a really interesting topic because it's quite topical now, right? You have a lot of really interesting content creators who are trying to talk in a really, really authentic way, but then are finding that when they are authentic, they develop huge audiences, but then brands might move away because what they're saying is controversial. And on the other hand, you have traditional brands that are being a bit staid and boring, but their numbers are dwindling. So if you're a brand, you've got to play this really interesting tightrope act, which is, I know my audience is shifting here. Like, look at Joe Rogan, right? He moved to Spotify, but when he was on YouTube, he himself, as a single entity, is bigger than CNN. But he's controversial. So brands have to tread this fine line, which is the reach is there, but do I want my content to be aligned there? So you have to find those, you have to find that overlap where you get really, really good reach, good media effectiveness, and the content is aligned with your brand. And so like our company at Omnicom, one of the things that we're doing is focusing a lot more on trying to find or do what we call brand aligned content, not just brand safe, but brand aligned. And that's becoming increasingly difficult because you gone are the days, the halcyon days of TV where you could run a spot and hit 30 million people and you knew the content was going to be professionally made. So it's difficult. But if you put the effort in and you really understand your brand and you find those content creators that are authentic and that fit your brand's values, then there's opportunity there.
What do you think about that, Ali?
First thing, it's great to see that content creation is becoming much more accessible. So you have much more and more storytellers and able to provide and share the stories. And I think this is an incredible opportunity for studios, media companies to have a great talent pool, right? To access those talents, to share stories. And that's an opportunity for this region where there is so many stories which are yet to be told, right? So this is number one. Number two, the way we consume content in the past decade has evolved so much. We different screens, different type of content. In a single day, we watch more content than ever before, right? So we are watching content, maybe short form created by amateurs, moving to vlogs on topics that we like, and maybe to a TV show or a movie. And the role for media platform is to provide a destination for viewers to watch that content, to engage. The role is to provide very strong stories, and most importantly is to ensure that it gives space to those young creators to be heard. And the media companies with the decades of experience they have in creating stories and creating brand are the perfect, I would say, partners for those new creators to create new stories and to create new stories for those generations.
Tarek, I saw you nodding your head a few times, but you have to think about that.
Yeah, I was just thinking through everything that's been said and trying to find something meaningful that I can share with the audience. I think a good way to look at it is to share an example of how we've seen a brand work with creators, and in this instance, it touches on both. So it's sports and gaming, right? So we saw Nivea Men work with Nasuhi, a sports commentator and content creator that exists on YouTube, also very active on Shorts, and UAE Skills, focused on gaming, come together, do multiple interviews, engage with the product, have authentic, candid conversations with celebrities within their space, launch a competition, a gaming competition. I think we're referencing that earlier, which we see a lot of happening on YouTube, that resonated really well with their audience. I think the other thing that's very important for us to note, that it's not just looking at it from a brand perspective, it has to make sense for the creator. Because the creators invest a lot of time and effort and money to build their communities, and to do that in an authentic way, and to share with them, content that adds value to those audiences. So I would say that brands, in working with creators, should always give them the space, because they know their audience, right? They know how to engage with them, and trust them to do the right thing, right? Because it's not just the brand that's there, it's also the creator's brand, and it's their livelihood, right? These are not just creators. I look at them as creative entrepreneurs, right? It's that whole new ecosystem that we're seeing. We saw that over the last 20 years, if we want to talk Internet 1.0 to where we are today, and we've seen a lot of the support that's been extended across the startup ecosystem. Whether it be through governments or accelerators and incubators, but the community came around that, right? And the industry came around it, and we're seeing great success. I believe that what's next in store for us is looking at those creative entrepreneurs, not just creators, right? But these are entrepreneurs. These are founders right here, right? Founders of businesses that have built legacies, right? They're legends. And as far as I'm concerned, in terms of the examples they're setting for the young audience, which we have a lot of in our region, and I think it's time that we give them the rightful space and attention. So brands also need to understand, and I'll conclude with that, more about what the creators are doing and why they're doing it, right? Because it is authentic.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'd love to hear your expertise on this, Kinda.
I'd like to take a little bit of a different approach. First of all, I agree it's about authenticity and relevance, but I'd like to talk about creators versus the more traditional media. And I think that it's not either or, but there's a place where the two worlds can collide and both coexist profitably. And we've seen some of the examples in this region where creators have started on YouTube and they made it to the big screen, for example. And or actually a lot of our partners, for example, a lot of the publishers, traditional publishers that we work with, are working more and more with creators that have the audience, that have the relevance, that have the authenticity to contribute to the content that they make, and that by itself is very attractive to brands. So there is room for both to coexist. And finally, from our perspective, we are looking at ways of how to prioritize creators. I talked a little bit earlier about ways that they can monetize their content, but also like more and more creative tools that help them basically elevate the quality of the content and be more creative. The tools that help them with being more creative and on the platform. So.